You should need to.
There we go.
There he is.
Hello? Test.
I'm Michelle Sieper with ATTO Technology. We'll be starting our webinar in about 1 minute. Thank you. I'd like to start our webinar. I'm Michelle Seifert, International Sales Executive for ATTO. I'd like to welcome everyone to How to Build Your Own Disaster Recovery and Avoidance Solution, Building Stretch Clusters with ATTO. To give you a little overview of our webinar agenda today, we'll review our business and product lines. We'll discuss what a stretch cluster is. We'll review stretch cluster applications, stretch cluster benefits and planning, and then the technology behind a stretch cluster. And at the end, we'll set some time aside for questions and answers. For those of you who aren't familiar with ATTO, this is a timeline to give you an idea of our business and the technology where we are today. So ATTO's been in business for over 25 years, and that actually says a lot for a technology company to be in the market and still be the market leader that we are today. Looking at our product lines, you'll notice our very first product was actually a solid-state storage device. And then after that, we've led the way by adding host adapters, fiber channel, different products throughout the years that we've had, SaaS, and throughout the years as well, we've been an active member of technology developer groups. The one thing I think to note about ATTO to take away from this slide is the breadth of products, the different technologies that we offer today. To give everyone that quick snapshot of ATTO, these are the different product lines that we have available today. We have host bus adapters in fiber channel and SaaS data, RAID adapters in SaaS. We have 10 gig E network interface cards, converged network adapters. Leading down below, we have our DeskLink line, which are several models of our Thunderbolt products, whether that be Thunderbolt to fiber channel, to SaaS, to Ethernet, and SaaS RAID. Our bridge product lines are fiber to SaaS bridge, as well as our switch. We do offer a fiber channel switch. And then just rounding up the products that we have to offer, we have cables and software. So this really sets ATTO apart in the market today. There really isn't a true competitor to ATTO, as we offer such a well-rounded line of products, maintaining the market coverage that we do. So I'd like to introduce James Uren. He's the product manager for our storage controller line, and he'll be reviewing with you our disaster recovery solutions. Jim?
Thank you, Michelle.
Don't touch. I don't want to lose camera. Go ahead. You might want to go back. I'll talk. We'd like to apologize for any inconvenience. We seem to have had a slight technical issue, so we'll go back a couple slides and continue the progress with our webinar. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about the technical issues. All right, we're going to start back with the stretch cluster. So basically we talked about that this training is going to cover the stretch cluster use case and how ATTO fits in a stretch cluster. Now, stretch clusters connect different sites to improve reliability and enable disaster avoidance and recovery. Stretch clusters can also be referred to as metropolitan or stretched clusters, basically having two data centers some distance apart. They can be in the same building or across a metropolitan area. Now, the high-level applications of a stretch cluster include disaster avoidance, downtime avoidance, and disaster recovery. By preparing for any potential disruption to storage, organizations can benefit from using a stretch cluster to bypass a storage outage and move any virtual assets off-site in the event of potential downtime. The other application is that of disaster recovery. If there is an outage, then the primary data center can return to full operation in a rapid fashion in the event of a disaster. DataCore Software performs annual market surveys, polling a large number of IT professionals across various vertical markets. And downtime mitigation is one of the key use cases for a stretch cluster. The 2014 survey indicated that many of these IT managers that they polled use clustered storage between data centers and in the same data center to reduce storage-related downtime. In the 2015 survey, support for synchronous mirroring and MetroClusters for high availability to ensure business continuity and asynchronous data replication for remote site disaster recovery were very high on their list, with about 49% of IT professionals using these methods. Stretch cluster acceptance and use in the data center is pretty much on the rise. It's being seen as a very valuable method to protect data between data centers. All right, now I apologize. Apparently some of these slides were not able to be viewed. So I'm going to go back a couple slides to let you view the slides. This presentation we cleaned up and we'll actually send it out after this webinar to make sure everyone has a complete edited version of this. So basically we talked about first the stretch cluster, and I wanted to just show that slide. That's basically the what is a stretch cluster slide we discussed. Then we went into stretch cluster applications, talking about disaster avoidance and downtime avoidance. And then this is the DataCore slide, talking with the graph, basically steps taken to reduce storage-related downtime. Now this catches us up into planning for a stretch cluster. Now, planning for a stretch cluster is an involved process, and it's a very key process that will help an organization lay out their plans to deploy their solution. Mission-critical applications are usually the primary focus of a stretch cluster, but other applications may fit as well. Some of the steps to determine what you need for a stretch cluster include reliability. Does the budget allow for redundant links between sites? With multiple links, a stretch cluster will provide load balancing and failover in the event that one of the links, cables, or SFPs encounters a failure. Now, defining the best way to connect sites. Is it local? Can you use normal fiber channel connections on site? Or is it long distance between 30 and 200 kilometers where you might need dark fiber or another method to connect the sites? Round trip latency is the key aspect of a stretched cluster. The longer it takes to write data between the clustered locations, the less reliable the solution will be, and it could even limit any usefulness in the event of a disaster. And then the final thing there, the final bullet on that slide is verify that your applications support being stretched. A lot of applications do this. VMware vMotion, for instance, is one of the key applications used to move data between data centers. VMs and virtual storage can be moved relatively easily. Some applications may not support that type of application, that kind of type of use case. So now, what's showing here is the gold standard for a stretched cluster. It's the NetApp MetroCluster solution. On the compute side, you need to have a hypervisor at both locations, and you need to have sufficient capacity to host the migrated or restarted virtual machines in the event of a disaster recovery. As you see here on the diagram on the right, you have a couple different controllers, one on site 1, one on site 2. All the NetApp installations for the MetroCluster include ATTO storage controllers. They use something called the 6500N version of our controller. And what you see here is that every host in the cluster is connected to both storage heads. The opposite storage head on the separate site maintains a replicated read-only copy that is effectively hidden from the host. So this is the copy that gets used in the event of need of recovery. If you're mirroring data synchronously, there should be no issue with data being synchronized, assuming there is sufficient bandwidth between sites with minimal latency. If you are mirroring asynchronously, any outstanding writes must be completed before the before a virtual machine can be moved to the separate site. So the difference there is all the application data on the first site needs to be written and closed to disk before it can be moved. And the other ones can be, if it's synchronous, it can do that actively while data is getting written to both sites simultaneously. Now, this can be an application limitation of whoever's deploying the stretched cluster software. And I'll talk a little bit about software in a minute. Now, on top of buying a pre-made stretched cluster like the MetroCluster, options exist to build your own stretched cluster. The drawing on this page demonstrates a similar configuration as the NetApp MetroCluster using ATTO storage controllers to connect to SAS storage to enable fiber channel connectivity. The example here uses two 6500 controllers per site for higher reliability in the event of a path or component failure. You can also use a single controller per site to eliminate switches and reduce cost, but that method is obviously less reliable because if one controller goes down, then you're losing your whole site. Software-defined storage solutions that exist today include Microsoft Windows multi-site failover cluster, Nexenta Metro HA, VMware vSphere, Metro Storage Cluster VMSC, and Data Core Synchronous Mirroring. These are the type of control software that actually enable the stretch cluster. Now, I said these were software-defined storage. I just wanted to take a few minutes and explain software-defined storage and compare it to traditional storage or software-enabled storage. Now, software-defined storage has been getting a lot of buzz in the market lately, and it looks like a pretty big direction. A lot of the analysts in this industry are starting to say this is going to be a $18 to $20 billion business in 2018. So software-defined storage can be used to describe virtual storage, hyperconverged software, storage virtualization stacks, scale-out virtual storage arrays, VSAs, and object storage. With software-defined storage, software is basically separated from the storage hardware that it's managing. On the left, you'll see the traditional proprietary storage model, storage boxes that are feature licensed on a box-by-box basis. Upgrading new features may be difficult depending on the age or capabilities of the storage, or it can lead to a rip and replace of all the old storage to add new several years down the road. The idea of software-defined storage is to be able to use more off-the-shelf commodity-type storage products, and it takes those features from traditional storage such as deduplication, compression, RAID, replication out of the storage array, and adds them to a server platform in front of JBOD storage via software. This basically allows for easier upgrades via server and software while using lower cost JBOD and JBOF storage. Now, JBOD storage we know is just a bunch of disks. JBOF, JBOF has been relatively a new term, just a box of flash. So if you have a box of SSDs, they consider that a JBOF. Now, the Storage Network Industry Association, or SNIA, defines software-defined storage as virtualized storage with a service management interface. So what does that mean? Basically just something that connects to storage to provide all the intelligence. And it's interesting to note that SNIA is still trying to finalize a spec on what software-defined storage actually is. So it's an evolving method of software. So when building your own stretch cluster, ATTO storage controllers are the perfect fit to enable this use case. While not just used for stretch cluster, ATTO fiber channel controllers do enable active-active data centers. ATTO controllers add enterprise-class management, monitoring, and fiber channel functionality to off-the-shelf commodity JBOD or JBOF storage, and this can lead to a lower total cost of ownership when connecting sites with high-performance, low-latency fiber channel. The 6500 is an 8 gig fiber channel to 6 gig SAS controller. It's been out for several years. It's currently installed with all NetApp MetroCluster applications. The 7500 was recently released. It's a 16 gig fiber channel to 12 gig SAS controller. It's got very impressive performance footprint, and it's used for building your own shared SSD flash storage. We'll actually be demonstrating this product and how to build your own flash array with a 7500 at VMware in San Francisco in September. One of the main primary differences besides the port connectivity is the way we architected the 7500. So the 7500 has separate acceleration and software control engines built into it. So basically all data goes through the 7500 without touching software. Everything's accelerated in hardware, all reads and writes to make sure this thing is fast. As you see in the box on the lower left side, we get about 1.47 million 4K IOPS and about 6.4 gigs of throughput per controller pair with a very small latency. Now compared to the 6500, that's about a 10-time increase in performance on IOPS and about a 4x, 5x increase in throughput. Now, a stretch cluster offers the advantage of enabling easy migration of virtual machines from one geographic location to another, while maintaining network connections with the other servers within the clusters. Now, the scenario can be useful if, for example, a hurricane or other natural disaster were expected to hit at one location. Back in Thailand a few years ago when we had the flooding there, a lot of the businesses there were able to use a stretched cluster to offload all their important key data, mission critical data, to another site and have that all protected. That was one example of a real world use case for that. Now in this case, critical virtual machines could be migrated to servers within the stretch cluster that are physically located in the different region or facility. Now a stretch cluster, like I mentioned earlier, is also known as a MetroCluster, Metro Storage Cluster, distributed clustering. It allows servers to be spread across geographical locations, and organizations can load balance and perform non-disruptive live migrations between active data centers. So say you were moving employees from data center 1 to data center 2, you could actually move their virtual machines and their virtual storage across the stretch cluster to the site 2 if they're moving to that location. Now, ATTO is going to be part of a worldwide launch of a new stretch cluster solution coming out July 14th. If you're a VAR or a system integrator and you're interested in learning more about the solution, you want to receive training on the solution to sell the solution, please contact your sales rep. At the end of the presentation, I have a slide up there with information for the people to contact in your region in case you're not familiar with them. I'm sure you are. More details are going to be announced with a press release. We're going to have a solution webinar next month and collateral surrounding the launch in July. So keep your eyes open for ATTO and our new stretch cluster solution coming up next month. Now if there's any questions, we can take them right now. Let's see here. So I have a question about, do we have best practice stacks, especially around the number of shelves per stack loop with NetApp 8.3 MetroCluster using the ATTO 6500N? ATTO doesn't actively sell the product. We do have a relationship with NetApp that we can pass that information on. If you contact your sales rep here at ATTO, we can connect you with our customer engineer who deals with them, and we can get that information for you. We do have a best practices documentation for the stretch cluster that we will be launching next month as well, so we can share the information with you. Now, another one asked about what HBAs can be used with the stretch cluster with the ATTO storage controllers. Well, depending on the operating system, any fiber channel hybrid HBA can be used. ATTO does have Celerity HBAs that are used in most of the applications, so as long as it supports the drivers that we support, it will be able to be compatible with that software, with the stretch cluster software and the 6500. And that is all the questions we have for now.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for everyone for joining our webinar. I apologize again about any technical issues we had in the very beginning. The final slide that we have for you today is just a quick overview of our teams. You have myself for the EMEA market. Asia Pacific is Kurt Beyer, North America, Dan Obroxta. We have Lisa Shackelford for our marketing coordinator, and product management, again, was Jim Uren. We will be sending out some additional information to those of you that registered for the webinar. And again, thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to speaking with you again with our next announcement in July. Thank you.
Large scale volume storage.
maybe we should investigate whether we can start looking at building servers where your server runs like next-gen data, and then the ATTO, NEXEN, TA, like next-gen. I sent you a link now of a brand. Because what I reckon is we'll be able to get to market at a fraction of the cost of what like a is it? But we're talking about serious cluster storage, right? So yes. Oh really? Because I'm just trying to think like where those ATTO fiber grid appliances start to come in is that you decentralize your storage and your applications. So the AT would charge you like a couple of million rand for a cluster. So cluster storage will implement SAS, SATA, and SSD, for example. And for storage and the software and everything. We could basically build that system using like our export gateways, our ATTO fiber bridges, and a server and a center, and get to market. Good. Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. But they also they do a whole of flash, eh? Oh, really? Yeah, they got two. Intuit Group and HDS Sahara. HDS Sahara is Shodan, I think is the company. Yeah.